Hey, just been on Facebook and noticed from Ronnie Kenny, um, South Philly Vikings are asking to keep their captain Louis C., his beautiful wife Allie, and family and friends from South Philly Vikings in your prayers. So if you guys get a chance today, take a moment to reflect on South Philly Vikings captain and their family, and we'll just say a prayer for them. Thank you. Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of A Mummer Story. Today, from Quaker City String Band, I have Carmen Verrilli. Morning, Carmen.
Morning, John. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So, I seen on social media again, we had another tragic loss to Mummer's family. If you want to say anything on behalf of the family, or
I can't imagine what the poor family is going through. My condolences go out to the Vikings family. A situation like that, I mean, what do you say? It just, sorry is not enough, but, prayers will be, with the families.
Tough times in the world.
Terrible.
But we still have the Mummers.
Luckily.
So, Carmen, tell everybody, how did you get into mummery?
Well, actually, the Mummers Parade was a real big deal in my family for nobody being in it. Both my grandparents lived a half a block off of Broad Street, one at Jackson and one at Moore. So every year, New Year's Day, out of town families, friends, it was just a big party. So pretty much from the time I was 6 months old, I was brought to the corner, of Broad and Jackson, Broad and Moore to watch the parade. And, always loved it. And I guess I was a late starter. I was about 10 when my grandfather's friend, who marched with the Puro Comic Club, said, I'll put you in a juvenile category. So my first year, I was Dominic the Great, who was a magician. He built this table with a big magic hat. I pulled a rabbit out in front of the judges. I don't remember what prize I got, but I remember I got $10 for it, so I was happy.
So what instrument do you play?
Play might be the word some people will defer with, but I play banjo. But
do you have the banjo?
I'm retired.
Do you have the banjo available?
No, unfortunately, I can't get to it.
Thought I'd get you to play a tune or something today.
Your viewership may go up by the fact that I'm not. So,
so the picture behind you there that says Strut. What's the story behind that?
Well, Strut was a movie, 1991, I believe. Max Rab produced it. It was a documentary on the Mummers. Showed a lot of the whole year leading up to the parade, and a lot of the backgrounds. Well, my father-in-law, his name's Ed Marquis. They called him Deefy. He was the founder and first captain of the Fancy Brigade, and by the late 70s, he had started his own special mention group. And the picture, if we could see it a little better, that was a first prize Aztec theme that the club took out. And when they were doing the documentary, they were at the museum, and when they saw this picture with City Hall in the background, and the producers really liked it, they ended up using it as the poster for the movie, for the cover of the CDs and the VHSs back then. But I was proud for our family. I said, that was one good thing when I met my wife and my father-in-law found out I was a mummer. We hit it off from the start. Spent many days watching old mum tapes, and
nice.
I knew I was in with the family, so it didn't matter what she thought.
90% of the problem was going at that point, right? So do you have anything else? Any other kind of Mummers memorabilia? Anything you wanted to show to everybody?
Well, one thing I'm pretty proud of, and I'm sure some of the people watching may have been behind it and seen it, but I've had this license plate since I was about 16 years old.
Wow.
And I was the first one to have it. Now, when I joined Avalon String Band, there was a gentleman there, Jake Hart, who previously did the commentary of the parade. I remember, I think it was the first night I joined Avalon. He came in and he was, whose car is that? Who has my license plate? I've been trying to get that plate. So, I was really glad to have that from the beginning. I have seen a lot of variations on it, especially now that it goes up to 7 digits. I believe Jake has mummers with the S at the end. So I'm glad he finally got accommodated. And I've seen MUM-R. So, but I was the original. So if you're ever behind me, give me a little blow of the horn, and hopefully I
That's
won't give you the finger, but
hey, somebody's got to start the trend, right?
Yeah.
So describe your very first performance. I guess, well, not as a kid, but when you were an adult or whatever it was you first started playing your instrument. Describe your first performance and how you felt.
Okay. Well, my first year in a string band was in 1986. I joined the Avalon String Band. So my first parade was 87. And I actually learned the banjo that year, passed the test, and I was a dancer. Came into the judges stand, and if we did the Flintstones that year. It was called Bopping in Bedrock. And they made the actual Flintstone cars, had to come in dancing with a car and a few costume changes. It was a great theme. It was hard to play with the costumes. I guess the judges didn't get it. I think we got a 10th prize with it, but still, it was an innovative. It was a fun theme, and it was being at the line inside the car, and I felt like I blinked and I was dancing out off the line, at the end of the show. I was like, what happened?
You had mentioned about tests, and I heard a couple other people mention that you had to pass a test. What is this test? What does it consist of?
Well, the band wants to make sure you have the music ability to play with the band. And when I first joined Avalon, I didn't play banjo, and there was a gentleman there, an old timer at the time, Walt Collin, and he taught me enough to play the chords. And so in about 6-8 months I was ready for the test. And a great mummer, Don Morrissey, who we lost too soon a few years ago, was the music director of Avalon then. And I remember taking the test with him, sweating, and at the end he said, yeah, you did fine, you passed. So yeah, I mean, you don't want somebody coming in, a guy who maybe bought a sax the night before and now he wants to be in a string band. So we do a music test. Back then we actually used to do a drill test too, make sure that the guys can play in march and time, and just be up to standard.
Right. So your very first parade, I'm sure just like anybody else, you're nervous, you don't want to mess up. Who was that person that gave you that great advice? What kind of advice did he give you?
Let's see. In Avalon, I guess I would say one of the dancers with me was a guy who's still in Avalon. I could just relax. It's a piece of cake. And I mean, I've been doing the parade over 40 years, and up to my last year in suit, you still get that nervous feel when you hit the line. I mean, you don't want to be that guy who feels that way, whether it's your first year, if it's your 50th year, if you're not getting those butterflies when you cross the line,
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
We might have had a little bit of technical difficulty there, maybe on your end with your Wi-Fi. I didn't catch the full story on that.
Oh, I'll start over. I said my first year with Avalon, was a dancer who was next to me in line, going in, Joe Erzillo, and he's still there. Said to me, "Don't worry about a thing. You got this. Just have fun." And that seems to be the theme, that you hear a lot. People tell you, just have fun, have fun. mean, it's pretty hard not to have fun. I mean, you do get nervous, but I mean, New Year's Day has got to be the greatest day of the year. You know, it's fun.
Being a Philadelphian.
Yeah. I
So
guess California, the Rose Bowls, you know.
yeah. Well, like you said, you see all these parades, this and that, but nothing tops the Mummers Parade. In fact, I videoed your guys' Mummers Parade this year, and I live, and after each performance, I did my own little commentating on it, and within a couple of days' time, it was like over 12,000 views. And as a matter of fact, I was having people from different countries seeing this, and they were amazed. In fact, Australia, Germany, like they were like, these people were like blown away by the Mummers. It was crazy.
I say that all the time. I think we are taken for granted in this area. You know, with Quaker City, I had the opportunity to go to Galveston, Texas for about 10 years, playing in Mardi Gras down there. And they treated like celebrities. When I was with Avalon, we did a job up in Maine, and it was West Virginia. It was a strawberry festival in West Virginia, and we played in a tent, and there was like top names in this tent. We just happened to be, you know, in between two big acts, and I was acting captain on that job. And when we got done, I spent a half hour signing autographs for people. Like they thought we were, you know, this celebrity status, you know. And I say it's a shame. You know, the bands have played in Italy, in France, Canada, Tokyo. I mean, the reception that the bands get around the world and even around the country is incredible. But I guess, you know, after all these years in Philadelphia, it's sort of, you know, gets taken for granted. Like how many people go see the Liberty Bell? You know, people come from out of town, they want to go see it. And, you know, the Philadelphians take it for granted.
So as a viewer, I kind of watched the performances, and again, the people at home, sometimes we feel a little bit differently how the judge places you guys. As a you know, longtime member of the string bands, how do you feel about the judging system?
Well, I'm not a fan of the current judging system. I understand why it is that way. But it's sort of, in my opinion, again, this is just my opinion, it's sort of forced the bands to become what the judges wanted rather than the judges watching the bands and judging us on what we are. And I try not to get too hung up on the judging. I mean, I won my first prize in 2011. You know, after 40 some years in Mummery, to finally get it, it was great. It was a great feeling. And it's a feeling I think every guy, girl, and every string band should get to feel once. So, you know, if we don't win a year, if the band that beat us was good, great. You know, a band that's recently won, Woodland, with their first win. They had so many guys that never won. And, you know, when I heard they won, I was happy for them. I mean, how could you not be? You know, it's a great feeling. Sure, I want to win every year. Everybody wants to win. But, you know, once that's over, hold no grudges and, you know, help each other get ready for next year.
When you watch the Mummers Parade from a viewer's perspective, I've always found it more intriguing when, like, the later bands play. You know, the sun sets a little bit in Philly, maybe around 5, 6 o'clock, and I've always found it again amazing how the lights just shine down on you guys, and it just sparkles off the, you know, your costumes sparkle off the lights. Do you feel the Mummers should be played at nighttime now outside the city?
It would enhance the show. I think, you know, being there as we are now in the early afternoon, it doesn't show the beauty of the suits or the props, you know, a lot of the sequence, the glitter, you know, the lighting that they use, it helps, but there was nothing when the parade was delayed a few years ago, and all the bands got to City Hall on the dark. It, it just made it for a more.
Kind of lost you again there. You're on your little thing there. If you want to re-say what you were putting out there. I don't know if you hear me, Carmen. You're frozen, but there you go. You're back.
There you go. Now you were frozen too, so you're good now.
Okay. You want to go back into what you were saying?
All right. So what was it about the going under the lights, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the lights definitely add something to the shows. I mean, especially back when the bands all were under the lights, the suits were designed for the lights, with the sequence and the material, the lamaze and all. And going up, in the early afternoon, it sort of takes something away from it. It seems like the city, it prefers to having the parade start early, over early, but it would be great to, if you see the bands in the dark, or even when we used to do the show at the old convention center, it was dark there and they had the spotlights on the suits. And if you watch tapes from back there, bands look electric.
They do. I think it's absolutely amazing. So at the end of the year, what do you guys do with your costumes?
Well, we use them. Especially right now, we have a lot of the St. Patty's Day parades coming up. There's the big Mardi Gras, Mummers Mardi Gras, Renault Winery. It's free to the public, so come and have a good time. And we wear them all year long. I know the guys are happy with this year's suits because come July 4th, they're going to be a lot more comfortable than say when we wore our winter is coming suits. They were a bit sweaty, but we wear our suits throughout the year. Some clubs will recycle suits, use parts of them. Some clubs will sell their suits to a fancy brigade. I believe there used to be a rule that every year all the suits had to be new. And now, because I think part of it is, there's so very few costumers. Al Del Bono, Jimmy May is short. I know Davey Mashinsky sort of retired. So, there's not many costumers. So they changed that rule where you can reuse a suit or, buy a suit. Some bands will buy a suit from a fancy brigade and vice versa. And, it works. Unless you're like some of the mum freaks that watch the tapes, constantly all year. People don't even realize that that's the case come New Year's Day, the average person.
Let's talk mummers follies. There's always bloopers, follies, no matter what you do in life. What has ever happened to you on at the judges area?
Well,
or were you flawless?
Wow. I am, but there's things that happen around you. So one of the first ones would have been around 1995 when I was in Avalon. We were doing a bird theme, and during part of the theme, I was in a back piece that year, and our back piece line was on the side, and we're backing up. And I hear a noise, and I look behind me, and there's our accordion player. He's on his back, trying to wiggle out, because you cannot, if you fall on a back piece, you cannot get up. If you ever want to look at something funny, and sorry, Fred, but you could Google Mum Turtle and see the perfect example of a guy falling on his back in the back piece. The hands and legs are going. And so one of the guys grabbed his back piece, pulled it out, and he was able to get up. He did get hurt. The accordion was damaged, but it was funny afterwards, not at the time. There's a lot of little things that happen, like falling off a prop, One of the worst things that ever happened to me actually was at a drill. It was 1999, going into the 99 parade. I tore ligaments in my ankle the Sunday before New Year's at the drill. And I went to emergency room. The doctor was like, you ain't marching. I was like, yeah, I'm dancing. So he gave me an air cast, and I went down. I took the air cast off. I went down at Methodist because, I took it off, put it back on, rode the car a little bit, performed at City Hall, and it was the year we did Spike Jones. Ended up my picture on the front page of the paper, and it's pretty much right where my father-in-law's picture was. The City Hall's in the background, and a few of the dancers, they ended up. So, but if anything could go wrong, it will go wrong. But you've done it so many times that you just work around it.
What would have been your personal favorite performance?
I have two actually. My first one definitely is 2011 Clown, My Kind of Clown with Quaker City. It was my first prize, and it was as close to the perfect theme as I've ever been a part of. Before that, my favorite theme I ever been was 96 Avalon. We did a Clowning with the Classics theme. It was actually based on Bugs Bunny cartoons. And I was a dancer, and it was from start to finish a fun theme. Till the very end, this might qualify as a blooper. At the end, I was the guy that got hit in the face with a pie. And we practiced. And Denny Quayle, who I'm sure you heard of, he's a Mummer legend. He was with us then. He was our choreographer, and he was also a dancer with us. He was the pie thrower and hit me with the pie. Probably was a little excited, a little hard. Thought he broke my nose. It didn't. And got him back at the convention that year because as we took our bows, I ran up behind him and got him with a pie. But yeah, those 2 years, 2011 and 96, probably my favorite of all times.
Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Well, I guess my father-in-law, because he got my wife interested in the hobby. So when we met each other, a lot of guys sometimes have issues with their wives, with the job. So she was sort of used to it. I mean, not to say that we didn't, but there were, glad to say that my daughters followed in two of my three daughters followed in my footsteps. They're in the Fancy Brigade. Got a lot of family in it, in which pretty much everybody does. Probably the three guys that are no longer with us in Mummery that I would say, if I could give a shout out, it would be to them. I mean, they were like three of the guys that probably should be on the Mount Rushmore Mummers. It was Richie Porco when I was with Moonglow. He was president of the Murray Comics and Comic Division. It was John Lucas from Golden Sunrise. Man could build a suit like nobody, and luckily taught me some of his secrets. Nobody could ever do what he did. And then the third, God, I miss him, was my buddy Bob Shannon. He was just, it's funny. Until I joined Quaker, you're like, nobody could be that nice. And he was one of the most sincerest, kindest, truest gentlemen I ever met. And, wish he was still here to be with us.
I think I remember the year that he passed. Didn't they call him the Gentle Giant?
Yeah.
I do remember that. I do remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Never met the guy. Again,
I
never
met a
met
few other things, but all in good nature,
So I have to top off our interviews here at the Mummer Story. I came up with some fun facts to add a little bit of fun to the interview. You ready for some questions?
Sure.
All right. Philadelphia, we're known for certain things when it comes to food and whatnot, and there's been controversies over lately. So I have to get your opinion. Ice cream, are they called Jimmy's or Sprinkles?
Jimmy's.
Fun fact number 2. Wildwood, New Jersey. Sam's Pizza or Max?
Actually, I tell everybody Sam's and Max are like the Pats and Genos of Philly. Good in name, but I'm not a fan of either one. But if I had to choose one, I would go with Sam's.
Favorite shore destination?
North Wildwood.
And one of the most major things I always heard of, and again, Philly cheesesteaks, with or without?
You got to have it with. I mean,
Carmen, it was fun having you on, and I appreciate you taking time away from your family on a Friday morning.
they're happy to get rid of me once in a while.
Yeah. And again, for everybody watching, if you're a mummer, you're in the comics, you're in the fancy brigades, this is for everybody. It's just ain't for the string band. So if you guys like these videos, jump on, send me an inbox, and then we'll get your interview going. But Carmen, again, I want to thank you. The history that you shared was absolutely amazing.
And John, I want to thank you for doing this, because anything that can promote the mummers in a good light, it's great. I mean, people seem to be quick to point out the negatives. So, things like this are great. I mean, sometimes people forget about mummers in February and March. So thank you for doing this for us.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. I enjoy doing it. Well, Carmen, you have a good day. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys in 2023.
We'll be there.
Take care.
All right, John.